So, welcome to another session of our Wednesday night Bible chat. Thank you so much for joining me. So, hopefully, you've been doing well in regards to the last 2 weeks. I've been talking about cleaning your house and how the Lord wants you to clean out those old things and replace them with His new glory, replace them with the wonderful blessings that He has in store for you. So, in the process of cleaning, I'm sure you have come across some issues, some people, some individuals. You've come across various things that are attempting to interfere with your cleaning process. So tonight I want to talk about, first I'm going to share with you a vision that the Lord gave me in my prayer time with Him. Um, this was and I'll make sure I write my stuff down, so let me check, make sure I'm doing it appropriately. Some of it was personal for me, other was it was for the corporate body. Okay, so this particular vision the Lord gave me was basically, there's a spiral, a big circle that goes round and around and around, okay? It was huge. It was really, really huge, but it was flat on the ground. So it was like in a grassy area, but it was flat on the ground, and I could see these paths. So like if you were to walk around, okay, but it was huge. And usually when you have a spiral circle, it either spirals, it spirals up or spirals down. But this particular spiral was flat, but it was huge. And then there was a force. I couldn't quite make out what it was, but it was something walking around it. And it started from the outside. Normally when you do a spiral, sometimes you start from the inside and go out. This thing was on the outside walking swiftly, almost to the point of running. And as it was walking, it was gathering people along the way. It was gathering people along the way. And when it got to the middle, it dropped immediately. I mean, it was so quick, you blink your eye, you missed it. And so, in my prayer time, I asked him, Lord, what is this? What's going on? And so what he told me was basically that, you're in the process, you're getting close to what the Lord has for you. And the enemy is going to create an environment in which he's going to try to use to capture you, to get you off track. And so the Lord said, don't let your environment interfere with your journey. So you have to be very careful now that you're cleaning the house and you're pressing forward. So you have to be very careful as who you're encountering in your environment. So the enemy wants you to get caught back up in some stuff you don't need to be caught up in. And so what will happen if you find that you're being caught up in that whirlwind, it's going to come to a point that it will ultimately lead to your demise. And that was the quick drop. So I don't know if that makes sense to you all. I hope it does. But if not, I just have to tell you what the Lord told me and what He showed me. So we have to be careful of what's in our environment. Make sure you don't get caught up in the whirlwind of foolishness, the whirlwind, returning back to sin, to ill behaviors, and make sure you stay focused on the will and the plan that God has for you. Because if not, the enemy is going to use every single avenue it can to get you wound back up in a whirlwind of confusion, in a whirlwind of mess, in a whirlwind where you thought you were on the right track, thought you were on the path doing the right thing, but ultimately you got to a point that led to your demise. So I'm going to give you a good example tonight. And I used this person maybe about a year or two ago, Nehemiah. And with Nehemiah, in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 4, verse 1 through 4. So let me give you a quick backdrop real quick. With the book of Nehemiah, Nehemiah was tasked, with rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem. And the enemies did not want them to rebuild the wall. So they encounter a lot of obstacles, a lot of harassment, just anything the enemy that was surrounding them could think of, they presented in their path in hopes to discourage them from building the wall. So that's pretty much where you are now. Your wall is getting the old stuff out, getting the new stuff in, so that and build your visions, your dreams that God has put in you. That's the wall that you're building now, that you're walking closer to Christ. And see, one thing you have to know, that when you what Nehemiah did, Nehemiah was a praying person, so the Lord was able to reveal what the enemy was doing. So you have to be careful. There are going to be individuals coming in your path. They may already be there, but you want to make sure that you have people in your environment, in your atmosphere, that are supporting what you're doing and not discouraging. So if you go with me to Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 1 through 4, and I'll be paraphrasing, as I always do. I paraphrase, but also I did get the Message Bible because I like how they worded some of the information. So in a nutshell, in chapter 4, verse 1 through 4, we have his enemy, Sanballat, and Tobiah. Okay, so in verse 1, this first enemy, Sanballat, comes up. And what he's basically doing is questioning the work that they're doing. He asked them, and I'm going to read it from the Message Bible, because I like that. It just breaks it down. So it says, when Sanballat learned that they were rebuilding the wall, he exploded in anger, vilifying the Jews. Doesn't that sound like the enemy? When people in your life find out, hey, I'm done with this, I'm not being bothered with this, I'm trying to go forth and do what God's called me to do, they're going to vilify you. They want to find a way to hammer, to make you feel discouraged about what you're trying to do. And so he says that, so the enemy Sanballat says, what are these miserable Jews doing? Do they think they can get everything back to normal? Make building stones out of what to believe? So in other words, they're going to come to you and say, do you really think that you can do this? Do you really think you can get on track and what God has called you to do? Then another enemy comes by with him, Tobiah, and he says, what do you think they're building? Why, if a fox climbed the wall, it would fall to pieces under its weight. So in other words, you got the first enemy coming saying, can you do this? I don't think you can. Then the second one comes and say, well, even if you do, it's not going to last. It's not going to be strong. It's going to fall to pieces. Does that sound like anybody that's in your environment? If it is, you need to begin to cut ties with them. Don't get caught up in that mess. But guess what? It didn't end there, because here comes another thing happening. Okay? And so here, they sit up here. Nehemiah prayed afterwards. So here's the advantage. When you have the enemy coming up against you like this, when you pray, God will show you the tactics of the enemy. Just like he showed me in my prayer time. That's a tactic of the enemy, that he's creating a whirlwind. He's creating a spiral, and in hopes to get you and so many other people caught up in it. But you have to stay focused on the task, on the goal, on the plan that God has for you. Okay? So what happened is that, so they're building the wall, they become tired, they become a little discouraged. They look at the task ahead and they say, you know what, I don't think I can do it. The enemy gets word of it, and the enemy says, this is the prime time to step in. But guess what happens? Because Nehemiah was praying, God gave him a plan. And he said, hey, look, I tell you what, we're going to watch. We're going to have a group of people to watch, and we're going to have a group of people to fight. Stay in God. And we're going to stay in God at places where the enemy doesn't think that you would be. It's going to stand guard at the areas that are weak. So in other words, we're going to build up, we're going to fortify those weak areas so the enemy does not be able to use that as an entry point. That's what you have to do in your life. Those areas that you know you are weak, those areas that you know you're tempted to fall, those areas that you know you're still working on closing down, you're still working on getting up. Those are the things you have to fortify in prayer. You have to fortify in worship. You got to get people like Nehemiah did. Nehemiah went and got certain people and say, hey, you go to this spot, you go to this one, you go to that. Go get some people that you know are praying people that are supportive of you and get them to help pray with you, because those areas that are still weak is the area the enemy is going to try to infiltrate. So you need to build up those breaches in your life so that the enemy will not be able to infiltrate it very easily. Okay? Notice what I said, very easily. So eventually what happened, the people were building and had their weapons. So they were building with one hand, had their swords girded on their side, ready. So when the enemy thought they were coming, guess what? While they still building, they ready to fight. They building in one hand, got the sword ready in the other. And that's how you have to be when you're cleaning up your house, getting ready for the new glory, getting ready for the blessings that God has for you. Continue to build, but be on watch, be on God, because the enemy is not going to let you go that easily, okay? And so they're building the wall. It's pretty much built. It's in order. The Lord revealed the enemy's plan, and they were able to counteract it. Guess what? They got mad. They got angry. Because guess what? What they were trying to accomplish was being accomplished. Okay? So if you go to Nehemiah chapter 6, it says now, so you have Sanballat, you have Tobiah, and then someone else joined, Geshem. Geshem joined, and with some other enemies, because now they're really upset. The walls have been built. Only thing they had to do was put the doors on the gates. And so now that's where some of you all may be right now. You may be right there, ready to get your blessing. And the enemy sees it and he's like, oh no, let me go get some help. I got to go get some help because I can't let this one get away, okay? Can't let it get away. So in chapter 6, it says basically he sets them up. He tells Nehemiah, the three of them, come and meet with me. Come down to the valley. Come meet with me. So you may have some people giving you a call saying, hey, come meet me here. Come meet me there. Come hang out with me. Okay? You may think at first it's innocent. But no, you got to understand it may be a trick of the enemy. Because Nehemiah said, well, wait a minute. I knew, here's the Message Bible, I knew they were scheming to hurt me. So I sent a messenger back and I said, I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. So in other words, you may have some people that are going to be coming in your path trying to deter you from what you're doing. It's okay to tell them no. It's okay to say, I'm busy doing God's work. I can't stop and to hook up with you. I can't stop to relive some old memories that may stir up some stuff in me that I'm trying to let go. It's okay for you to tell them no, because when you go, that may be the setup. That may be the ambush. And so when that ambush comes, that may be the very thing that puts you in that whirlwind, put you in that spiral and cause you to fall. Okay? So I like what he said. He knew they were scheming against him. So when you're walking in the will and the plan of God, like I said, he will show you the tactics of the enemy. And once he shows you, then it's up to you to make sure you do the necessary things not to fall in the trap, and the necessary things to fight against the enemy. So I like this. So guess what? He asked them 4 times. He bugged them 4 times. Come meet us, come meet us, come meet us. And Nehemiah, I'm not coming, I'm not coming, I'm not coming. So the 5th time, they devised this letter. And the letter was a lie, talking about the Jews were going to rebel. And he bounced back and said, that's a lie. I'm talking in my terms, okay? But he said, that's a lie. Again, another trick of the enemy to get you fall into the ambush. But because he prayed, because he stayed focused on the task at hand, the enemy wasn't able to get him. Then they went this far. They tried one more tactic. And this was the ultimate thing. He goes to this prophet's house. And the prophet says, let's go into the house of the Lord, because there you will be safe from the enemy. Nehemiah was like, wait a minute. Why do I have to run for cover? Why? Why should a man like me use the temple to hide? Guess what? He said, I sensed that God hadn't sent this prophet, but that Gershom, Tobiah, and Sanballat, they hired him. So here he goes. The enemy went to great lengths just to make sure Nehemiah won't build the wall, wouldn't build it, or wouldn't complete it. That's what he does to you. But you have to give notice, serve notice to the devil right here, right now. Serve notice to the enemy. I don't care what you put in my path. I am focused and I am on board with doing the will of God. I am focused and I am on board to doing what God has called me to do. Pay attention to your environment. Pay attention to what's in your atmosphere. Don't get caught up in that spiral. Pay attention. And when you're focused and you're praying and you're seeking God, he will reveal the tactics of the enemy just like he did with Nehemiah. He told Nehemiah, no, they are setting you up in so many words. He showed Nehemiah. He sent people to say, look, the enemy is on his way. And he knew it, so he fortified those weak areas of the wall. And so that's what I'm telling you. Yes, God is ready to bless you and bless you abundantly. And those that are working on cleaning your house, keep it up. Keep it up. Don't stop. But know that when the enemy comes against you, know that you're on the right track. Because he's not going to come against you unless he's in jeopardy of knowing I'm about to lose this one. So I need to pull everything out of my bag that I can. Okay, so I want to encourage you tonight. Serve notice to the enemy. Tell the enemy, I see you. I know you. I'm not getting caught up in that stuff again. You know what your weaknesses are. You know what old things are in your house that you're trying to clean up. You know the things that are hindering you. You know the things that you have worshipped and you've made idols out of. But now you're telling yourself you want to rid yourself of it. Like I told you, it takes time, but you have to know that it can happen. You have to stay in the presence, stay under the presence of God so he can show you, so he can protect you, so he can cover you, so he can seal you, so he can give you instructions, he can give you and guidance on how to counteract the plans of the enemy. So you have to understand, like it says in, now it's all making sense, Matthew chapter 18. All right, 18 verse 7. Okay, so the Lord Jesus was talking to the disciples here, and so he told them in verse 7, woe unto the world because of offenses. Okay, so what he's saying is that for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offenses cometh. So in other words, what the Lord was telling the disciples, when we're talking about offenses, we're talking about things that's going to interfere, that's going to cause you to get off track. We're talking about temptations that will cause you to sin. We're talking about things that will cause you to stumble and fall. And what the Lord is telling that you're going to have offenses in this world. You're going to be approached with things that will attempt to cause you to stumble, to fall, to be tempted. But the key is that although it's there, you don't have to engage in it. You don't have to be a part of it. He says to them, wherefore, if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off. Now, the Lord's not literally talking about cutting off the hand and cutting off the foot. These are representations of things in your life. If this thing is a stumbling block, if this thing is causing you to stumble and fall, if this thing is a temptation and is leading you to sin, then you need to be done away with it. You need to cut ties with that person that you know, if I get in the presence of this person, I know I'm going to be tempted. If I get in the presence of that person, I know I may stumble and fall. So it's your responsibility as you're cleaning your house to recognize those things that will cause you to stumble and fall. Recognize those things that are temptation Because we're going to be encountered with temptation, but you have to understand you have to deal with the temptation. You have to learn how to deal with it. You have to learn how to cut those people, those things, those situations off. And he says also, cut them off and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter life halt or maimed rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. Also he says, and if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. It's better for thee to enter life with 1 eye rather than having 2 eyes to cast into hell fire. Now again, it doesn't mean literally pluck your eye out. It doesn't literally mean cut your hand or cut your foot off. That's not what it means. It means that those things that are causing you to stumble, you need to revisit and find a way to get those things out of your life. Like, for example, when we look at the Word of God, it tells us in 1 John 2 and 16, it talks about the temptation, 3 temptations, the pride of life, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh. So these are things that we are constantly tempted by. And so we're constantly tempted by the pride of life. That is our well-being, our standing. Where are we with that? And we're constantly concerned with that. The lust of the eyes. We are constantly concerned with things that we see. Okay? And things that are a personal desire to you. So there's some things I may like to see that's a desire to me that may be tempting me, may not be a desire to you. So that's where we come in cleaning ourselves, checking ourselves. And then the lust of the flesh. Those are the physical things that we like, okay? So you have to make sure that these things, these offenses are not taking hold of you. That you begin to look at what is an offense to you. And let me switch channels for a minute. If you are an individual that is offending someone, you need to check yourself too, because you may be the person that's causing them to stumble and to fall. The bottom line, tell the enemy, I know what you're doing. I'm going forth. I'm not turning back. I'm pressing forward no matter what it takes. And I just need you to be like Nehemiah. No matter what comes in your path, no matter what your friends say, no matter what enemies come up against you, if you're walking in the will and the path that God has ordained you to walk, don't worry about your Sanballats. Don't worry about your Tobias. Don't worry about your Geshems. Don't worry about them. God will show them to you and give you the tools that you need to counteract their plan. So I hope this word has been a blessing for you tonight. Just serve notice to the enemy. I see you. You're not going to stop me. I'm not getting caught up in that spiral of foolishness. I'm not getting caught up in that whirlwind. I'm not getting caught up in stuff that will cause me to ultimately fall and cause me to miss out on the blessings that God has for me. So again, I hope this word has been a blessing for you tonight. Join me next week for another session of our Wednesday night Bible chat. God bless. Stay focused, because God has wonderful things available for you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless.